What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris, and I have a very special guest. And this one specifically is a good friend, longtime friend, client, and also super successful business owner, entrepreneur. And we have Jeremy Holbrooks with us here today. So
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate the intro.
Yeah.
Super excited to be on the podcast, man. And it's cool to see it full circle from when we first started to now.
Yeah, this is really cool because we have a lot of evolution in both of our lives, and we kind of been able to see each other's growth. So it's been really cool to have that. But Jeremy has Holbrook Outdoor Solutions, which you guys do grading, land clearing. He plays with the big toys.
Yeah.
You know, the big stuff.
I've always said, like, I'm still a kid at heart playing with bigger toys, you know?
Yeah. It's a fun job. It's a fun job.
I love it.
But yeah, there's a lot of value that we're going to be getting from Jeremy from being a successful entrepreneur, family of,
Soon to be three.
soon to be three.
Yeah.
So about to have 3 kids. You know, you're juggling a lot on top of the fact you're in the gym, you're hammering it, you're focused on your health. And a lot of that, I think, has been a progression over time. So I really want to dig into that, especially if you're out there and you feel like you are juggling a lot of things in your life, you're going through some ups and downs. Maybe you're trying to start a business. Like, this episode is for you. You're gonna get a ton out of this, because even though I train him, we talk a lot,
Yeah.
and even I get a lot from Jeremy. So let's reel it back. Let's start. How did Holbrooks Outdoor Solution even start?
Well, I think me being a young entrepreneur at heart, I wanted to do something in the outside world. It started with cutting grass, hardscaping, dumpsters, and I found out I like that stuff, but I really like getting my hands dirty, and I like dirt. I like the smell of it. I like the toys that come with it. I like everything about that side. So, and I like cutting trees. I using a chainsaw, and but kind of reverse it back. I started my entrepreneurship in like 7th grade, just cutting grass and pushing. Push mower, weed eater, the backpack blower. Didn't even have a truck yet. And then as I progressed through high school, I could drive, got a truck, put my push mower in the back of the truck, and just had at it. And then I wanted to be a firefighter. I didn't think I would. I knew firefighting world. You work like 48 on, 96 off.
Yeah.
So I thought in that time I could start a business. In that time I was off, so I could. Get the insurance and make money, And so I went to the academy, did that for a while, and I just got married, and I was like, man, I'm going to take this 100% to just work on my business.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Yeah.
Kind of
So what year was that when? Well, let's say this. What year was it when you were just doing the push mower, no like real equipment? When did that start?
It was 2015. Well, 7th grade, 2012, in that range. But I would say really entrepreneurship, 2014, and then I graduated in 2016, and got married the same year.
Okay.
So big year for me, and that's kind of when I got the LLC, got my boots on the ground, and said I'm done firefighting. I'm gonna take it to 100%.
Got it. So when you were acquiring clients back then, when you were first starting, knocking doors or networking with just people you know?
It was just people I've known for, I guess, the years that I've cut their grass. Like, it was the same clients,
Okay.
And then they would know somebody in the same neighborhood. And as I grew, obviously with a push mower, you only can do so much. So as I grew, I got a riding lawnmower. Okay, maybe another, got my foot in some more doors, and so at that time we were living on Lake Lyman, so I kind of only serviced, the lake. So I kind of had a niche there.
Yeah.
And that's where it turned into, okay, we can do your mulch, do your flower bed, stuff like that. And that's kind of like where I think I can take this to another level and add some more services.
Yeah.
And that's where it all began.
Yeah, just more value. Yeah.
Sure.
So I always ask, because you'll hear a lot of, I won't say a lot, there are a handful of big entrepreneurs that you got to go all in, burn the boats. And to me, it sounds great, and I think that makes you fully commit. But when you have bills to pay, when you've got things that are going on in your life, how do you do that if your business isn't even making enough money to pay that? It could be really stressful. So I think you doing that firefighting thing, was that kind of the time that you acquired enough income from those jobs doing landscaping to be able to pay bills? Was that when you were like, okay, I'll go all in now? Or were you still kind of scraping by and like, no, I'm just fully committing?
Yeah, scraping by. I didn't know what I was doing. Like
Yeah.
my wife, my wife when we graduated, she's a year older than me. She was already in college,
Okay.
so she obviously wasn't working at the time. So I was still the breadwinner, trying to make ends meet. Already had an apartment lined up, and I had to work somewhat of another job to get by.
Yeah.
You know, but eventually about 6 months into it, I was able to quit that job and go full time.
Heck yeah.
So.
When did you, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, as you kind of grow, you kind of start opening a new lens of like the opportunities, kind of like you were just cutting grass and you're like, oh, but I can also do mulch, I can do these other things to increase your income. Was there a time that you had a really big job that was like, oh my God, like this is almost
money.
life-changing money?
Yeah. In the grass, not really. I would say as I added more to that, like mulch beds and like hardscaping stuff, I got into more of that. Wow, that's the biggest check I ever put in my bank at the time, you know?
Yeah.
But I would say one of the turning points of that part of the business, the landscaping stuff, I had like a 300-yard. I got lucky, and not lucky, but I kind of just in the right place, the right time. 300 yards of mulch to spread, and a yard of mulch, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And when we were done with that, we're like, wow, kind of like, man, I can kind of like relax for a day or so.
Yeah.
But that's just not my genes, you know. I got to get back to it the next day, you know. So, but that was probably like, okay, I can pay my bills for the next month and not have to worry about it, you know. And
Yeah.
very early on, and I didn't have a lot of debt at the time, you know, lawnmower, so it was just life-changing money. I would say that was probably 8 months in, you know.
Wow, yeah.
So I was very, and again, these are the clients that I was cutting grass before.
Yeah.
And then that walked me into the next phase of the mulching, landscaping stuff. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, I think there's a lot of growth in that, but I think that opportunity, people want that. Yeah, I remember the first time that I had kind of that experience of like more money than I've ever made before in my life, and I was like, wow, this can really be something, you know? It just kind of opened your eyes up to opportunity that you may have not seen, because, you know, coming from a small town, kind of like you, I mean, people know what they know.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to be able to see a vision a lot bigger if you've never been exposed to that. Because what did your parents used to do for work?
My mom was a single mom. She was in the orthodontist world, like braces and stuff like that. So I always seen her struggle, man, and I didn't want to. I just hated seeing her like that, and I just knew, like, whenever I saw that, I think that plays a lot in the role, like why I want to change my family tree so bad, is because I seen that growing up, and you know we still ate, and like, you know, we still had a good life. It was just that she struggled, and I think that was a turning point when I was young. Like, okay, like I'm gonna change that.
Yeah.
And I love the quote from Ed Milet, is like, it's crazy what a little winning would do. Reverting back to that job, like changing the trajectory of your mindset.
Yeah.
And I think looking back at it, that's what it did for me, is like, wow, I can actually do something with myself, and this isn't just a fling. You know?
Yeah. That's super cool, man. Yeah, I mean, think even with your wife, I'm sure she saw that and was like, wow. I mean, first off, to be married and you're building something from scratch, your wife loves you to death, man.
Yeah.
Mine
yeah,
too,
I
you
hope
know,
so.
like.
Well, I think like this, like she's been with me through the thick and thin, and we've been some up and downs, and we're not, you know, I wouldn't say that I got it all figured out.
Yeah.
But she has been a great influence in my life as well, and she's very smart, and she wants the same value that I want in life.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a team.
For sure. I mean, that's the same. My wife is very supportive in what I do. And, you know, when you're getting into this, and then we're going to touch on this too, as far as like mentorships and how you started to learn more about the business to be able to, continue to grow and scale. But, if you've never hired a business coach before, it's a bit of money. You pay a decent chunk of money to somebody with no real guarantee, right? You don't like, oh, if this doesn't happen, you get your money back. Like, that's not how that works, because it all comes down to implementation. It's like someone coming to me and saying, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, but if I don't lose 20 pounds, you need to refund me all my money. I can't guarantee you're doing the workouts. I can't guarantee you're eating the food like you're supposed to, right? Like, we're guiding you, we're giving you all the tools, we're giving you the strategies, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to put in the work. So when you're getting into that kind of field where you're wanting to hire somebody and invest that kind of money, it's a big chunk, and your wife has to trust you.
Yeah.
Put a lot of faith in that, saying, okay, because whatever amount that coach is, maybe they're thinking, that's a really nice vacation and some. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
For them. So to, go to them and say, hey, like, I'm investing this into a business coach because this is what we're trying to do. They have to have a lot of faith in you. So I feel like that you've built that. But what was that? Okay, so this is the question for you then. The very first mentor that you had, when you told your wife, how did she react to that?
I think she was at a point, and we've talked about this, like, she knew I needed help. Like,
Okay.
I was at a place where it was either get help or close the business. It's a point where my marriage was in a bad place. I wasn't showing up as a husband and father as I should. And it wasn't necessarily about the money at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was about getting help. And my first coach was local, so I was able to, have weekly calls with him and really help me.
So let me back it up a minute, because, all right, business is doing well, right? You kind of hit a pinnacle where you're like, wow, this is really something. At what point did you now start seeing a little bit of struggle and setback? Was that more financial, personal, combination?
Combination. Yeah. Like, one of my core values is evolve. Like, I'm always trying to evolve to become the best version of myself, and I had to come to the realization that I wasn't, and that combining, like, being the best version of myself at home, and because of that, my business was failing on the back end. And as you asked, the hardships, I think it was just me learning that there's so much more than just owning a business.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have standards. You have to become the best version of yourself. And when you're in that mindset, your business is going to do way better. I had no guidance in that. I was about 5 years into my business before I realized that, okay, this is not working.
Yeah.
So that's when the mentorship, me reaching out, and I started to see people winning,
Yeah.
And I wasn't winning. I looked like I was. You know how the internet is.
Yeah.
I have all this flashy stuff, and, like, I'm winning.
Yeah.
But in reality, I wasn't, and, like, I was so attached to those physical things, and it took me a while to let it go. So I was probably a year in to my coaching that I was, like, fighting him. Like, I didn't want to sell my stuff. I didn't want to get rid of my stuff. That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. Like, I cannot get rid of it. And he's like, okay. And it's either that or I quit. Like, I'm firing you.
Yeah.
He's firing me. Like, I'm coaching. Like, I'm paying him. How's he gonna fire me? So I was like, okay. So I sold them. I sold the equipment, and again, that's verts back to, like, I thought I had to look a certain way.
Yeah.
To get business and to be, again, I felt like I had to look like I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
And that's another piece I would say, like, give advice to our listeners, is just being vulnerable with yourself, and then, like, the combination of, like, at home life and in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Your reflection of your home life definitely comes out on your business side.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you started your business too, I think a lot of people, when they start, they just want to make money, right? But did you have a vision at that point in time, or did it start to develop over time?
Over time.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, small town.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to not work for somebody. I
Yeah,
did not
yeah.
want to work for somebody. I wanted to have like my own schedule, and I think I had a moment where I like this freeness, like
Hmm.
and I've learned like money is just a tool now, to
Yeah,
get you to that freedom,
yeah,
um, and to get you to do what God made you to be, So at the time, I would say no, I didn't have a vision, but as I progressed in business, it definitely came to fruition for sure.
yeah, yeah. Because I think you said, I mean, we've had conversations in the past too, where, not again, we've known each other for a long time, so I kind of saw the progression
Yeah,
as your business was growing, and then you had some struggles at home with your relationship that you've talked about as well. I have as well, because when you get into work mode and you're hyper focused and you see things going well, we really kind of lean all into that. Like we really go hard because we're like, oh my God, this is working. And then everything else kind of takes a back seat, unintentionally.
relationships,
Yeah. Spend,
family events, anything.
yeah, because you're always thinking, I need to get ahead. That's something that I've learned to where, when you work for yourself, there's no such thing as getting ahead. You're always working towards something. You'll never be done. There's no end to it. So setting some hard boundaries for yourself can really create more of that clear line vision that you really want.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
when you kind of went through that, I'm assuming you kind of took a step back, obviously having the mentor to kind of reel you back.
Yeah.
Hey, get rid of this. You need to focus more here. Um, I feel like that once you kind of got that back in place, like let me ask you this, like what kind of boundaries did you start setting yourself at that point in time?
I was the guy that would rather be, and it sucks to still to this day because I've said this over many podcasts. Like it sucks to even say this today, but I was the guy that would rather be working 9 o'clock at a job site than going home and facing the reality that I wasn't being the man I was supposed to be. My kids don't want nothing to do with me. My wife sure didn't want nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But again, back to that, like I thought in my head, like I'm doing this for us.
Mm-hmm.
But like I came to a realization one night when my wife came to me and she was like, "You're not doing this for us. You're doing it for yourself."
Yeah.
And ever since then, my mindset has shifted to where, okay, when all this business stuff goes away, who's going to be there? Your family. When
Yeah.
shit hits the fan, who's going to be there? Your family. So, what boundaries have I set? First of all, I didn't have any standards for myself, meaning like, when am I supposed to go home? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like when do I time block? When do I have family time? Being present at home. I still struggle with that now.
Yeah.
Because your phone rings, you're like, it's like an addiction. Like, oh, I can't miss that call.
Yeah.
But I catch it a lot faster than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
So setting boundaries, like being home, don't miss your son's baseball game.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna finish at 5:30 and you know you're not gonna finish, that job's gonna be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, go to your son's baseball game.
Yeah.
Boundaries is just being present, going home at a decent time, and being present in the moment with your kids and setting time for your family.
Yeah.
You have to be, and honestly, home life, business, it all has to be structured, as you know.
Yeah.
We talked about that many times. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have structure and standards, and like, you wouldn't think like I didn't think I used to have. I didn't need to be time blocked at home. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what? But in reality, like if you sit back and think, that makes a lot of sense. Like to be structured at home.
Yeah. It's really cool to hear that from you, but as like we're doing more of the podcast and bringing more like entrepreneurs on specifically too, but even through my past working with other entrepreneurs, time blocking is like the golden rule that we need to live by, because it sounds so absurd to think, well, I need to time block for work, but you need time block for home and spending time with your kids and your wife.
Absolutely.
And like, it sounds crazy to some people, but that's how we're hardwired. And honestly, like when you start doing that, and you probably realize, you start to notice there's more time. There's more time to work. There's more time to spend with your family. Be present. So it's not like you're at home on the computer making calls. Like that's not being home. That was when I first started back when 2020.
The grinding days.
Yeah, I didn't have an office. I just had a laptop. and I would sit at the kitchen table, and that's where I would work. And subconsciously, I started developing this habit that when I sit down at the kitchen table, work. My mind was
Yeah.
working.
I totally
So
can see that. For
when
sure.
you start trying to have dinner with your family or even have a conversation, I'm like, my mind is somewhere else.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I,
It's workflow. And
for sure.
I want to go back to what you said too, as far as escaping in your work. Dude, I feel like that's very common with everybody because, and you got to think your wife is a stay-at-home mom. You know, my wife, same thing, stay-at-home mom. Now she does a little bit of Pilates too, but for the most part, she's stay-at-home mom. When you get in an argument, because everybody gets in arguments, everybody gets in arguments. But like when you get in an argument, it's a lot easier for us to just go work and consume and forget about what happens.
For sure.
But imagine not having that. Imagine not having any sort of escape. Dude, that boils, And I'm sure their minds just boil, get even more upset, more angry. They start thinking, intrusive thoughts, whatever, they're thinking. But I can imagine that, just being very uneasy for someone that can't escape. And then when we come back, we're like, why are you so mad? We've already move on to the next thing.
I'm already
So
back in business.
yeah. So that was something even myself I had to work on is, making sure that I'm communicating, having those hard conversations. What can I do to make us better? Because I know when we're not good, my business is not good.
Right.
I feel like my mind is kind of the same way. Like I can get hyper focused and then I can also be very distraught because I'm going home to someone that's not happy, I'm not taken care of, because when we start business, I feel like that's why we started business too, is we want to take care of them.
Yeah.
We want to provide, protect.
We want to change our family tree.
Exactly.
I would say on that, to bounce off of that, is like when I got coaching, they were like, is there any, why don't you think you have time, or why are you have that scarcity if you're going to miss that call? Is there a grading emergency? And when they said that, a light bulb went off. I'm like, wow, you're right. Probably not. Is there in your line of work, is there an emergency where you have to answer that call?
Yeah. No.
When you start putting those perspectives in, it's like, wow, that makes real good sense. I had noticed with you, back when I was young and didn't understand, I would text you 9:00 at night, and now it's I had an iPhone, but now I can see you can set do not disturb or whatever, and I've noticed you do that. And me and you've talked about many times, you're not going to get me after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I'm up at 5 a.m. probably before you, and I will get back to you. And that's what we've talked about too, is client experience, getting back to them at a decent time, and setting standards not only for yourself but also your client experience and you in your sense. So it's just full circle.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think that's part of setting the expectations. We now have when clients come on, and I would say we developed this 2 years ago. I would say we came out with something we call a clarity checklist. Anybody that signs up with us, they get an onboarding call. We break things down, get all the details to build a plan. But we have this very specific list that myself or one of our success coaches read verbatim, word for word. I tell them that, you read this all the way through. So the expectations are set. So clients know exactly what they expect from a coach, what we're going to do, how we're going to communicate. This is what we expect from you to be successful in our program.
Yeah.
And we need to be aligned. And we always tell people, this is the standard. We'll meet you where you're at, but this is our baseline. This is where we go. And ever since we've done that, it has been a game changer. Because, if I didn't tell someone, listen, a lot of these coaches, you have 24/7 access to me. Well, you don't sleep? You never sleep? You don't have a family? You don't have a kid?
Right.
What, you just
misalignment.
Yeah, and I think when you say that, it sounds good. Oh, I can message them anytime. But in reality, these people aren't going to be messaging you back 1 or 2 in the morning. And then what, are you going to be mad because you told me 24/7, you're not messaging me back right away?
Yeah.
So now that's kind of a far extreme.
Yeah.
But, there have been occasions, clients will text me 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm glad that I told them, hey, listen, I'm up at 5.
Yeah.
You won't be, but I'll
Yeah.
message you at 5 then.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's so cool though, because you set the expectation before they onboard as well. And I've learned on the step back is like not every client is your ideal client.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like talking
let's
about
talk
like
about that.
if they don't align with your core values, and if you already done a discovery call with them and you ain't vibing, like you're probably not my ideal client, bro.
Yeah, yeah. It is. I mean, this is why, the calls are important. You can't just sign up with us.
Right.
You can't just like here, swipe your credit card, fill out some form or something. We get on a call, and more specifically, I always push for some sort of Zoom, FaceTime, so I can see you, kind of get a feel, because if we don't vibe, it's going to be a very awkward next, 16 weeks, 6 months, whatever you sign up for. And I learned this actually where it hit me first. This is funny, dude. We used to train at the firm.
Yeah.
And I was training a handful of clients there in person, and there was this one guy. He was a little strange, but he was okay. And dude, I'm cool with people asking questions, like ask questions. I want you.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was debating me when he was questioning what I was telling him to do. And I was like, why are you paying me when I'm trying to teach you something and you're like saying, well, what about this? Why don't we try this? You should have done it yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But there was one time, so that was kind of boiling in me. I was like, it's whatever, We were doing shoulder press. I remember, dude, this is like embedded in my brain. It made me so mad. But he was doing seated shoulder press. He wanted to go heavy. And I'm all for going heavy. You know what I mean? Like, let's push it. And he went a little bit heavier than we normally do. So in my mind, I can gauge pretty good. He's probably going to get like 6 to 8, somewhere in there. 8 was going to be a stretch. And he picks him up, presses 1 or 2, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's going to be struggling here in the next 2 reps or so. Got to around 5 or 6, and the 6th one, I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to get up. And I went to, kind of support him around his wrist. I was about to grab his wrist. And dude, he yelled in the whole gym, "Don't touch me!" Like loud. Thank God that gym was empty, you know what I mean? Because that's like embarrassing. But and it ended up he couldn't get it up, and he just dropped it on the floor. And I took a step back and had to just like calm myself, because he kind of scared me too.
Yeah, like
because he screamed it.
Yeah.
And I just remember I'm like, look, man, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. That's like unacceptable for me. It's one thing that you want to push, but my job too is to keep you safe and not hurt yourself.
Right.
I've done this long enough to know if somebody needs a spot or not. I will never intentionally start picking the weight up for you. But where I see you struggle or can't get it, then I'm going to give you that extra couple pounds so you can get that last rep. And he's like, I knew I could do it myself. And timing wise in itself, he only had 2 more sessions after that. And when he was finally finished, I didn't resell him. I pretty much told him, hey man, I appreciate you working with me. I think you're good. You don't need me anymore. And I think it's best off you go your ways.
Ideal client.
Yeah.
And that brings back to you having a process now to knowing if that's going to be, you can kind of catch those things now that you've been through it. Mm-hmm. This is not my ideal client.
Yeah, so. Especially if you love what you do, don't let one person tarnish 100%. Everything. You've
already worked this hard to create these systems, and you're at a point now where if they don't align, it's your job to catch that early, and the consequences going into it if you don't.
Yeah.
Then you're going to suffer on the back end and, like you said, boil and get mad and have a bad client experience. So I think being upfront and having standards and SOPs to follow, you can really find your ideal client.
For sure. I remember my last mentor that I had a year ago, we were having dinner because he was throwing this basically a 3-day event down in Orlando. And we're sitting down, we're having dinner, and we were talking. And he looks at me, he was like, Chris, I want to ask you something. I'm like, yeah. He goes, how many clients is too many clients? And I was just like, I was looking at him, dude, we're in rooms with like big time successful, online coaches. And I'm just like thinking, I'm looking around, I'm like, dude, how many? I was like, I guess it depends how big your team is, how many coaches you have on staff and all that. I'm thinking technical. He's like 1. And I was looking at him, and I was just like dumbfounded. I was like, 1? You're gonna run a business with 1 client, I was like, 1? He's like, you didn't let me finish. He was like, 1 mother effer. And I was like, he was pretty foul at the mouth, I will say. But anyways, that's what he said. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you only need one person to ruin your experience, ruin your passion, ruin the love for what you do to make you want to shut down. He's like, you don't need to coach everybody. You don't need to train anybody. Going back to like,
Ideal
find that
client, yeah.
ideal client, dude. And that's stuck with me hard ever since.
Yeah, see, I love that. And people come into your life at the times you are, the time when you need it the most. So maybe it's around that time frame,
Mm-hmm.
you possibly are going through something like that,
Yeah.
or it was coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
you remembered that. And that's why you have systems now. And like that's the same thing with my mentors. Like everything that I'm saying here now, I was in the trenches and learned, and I have some experience with that, so I feel comfortable now, like catching those little things to prevent me from having a bad experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Hell yeah.
yeah, man.
That's cool though. But all right, so let me shift gears a little bit because I know you're pretty faith driven as well, and we've talked about you have a routine I guess you do in the morning as well. Let's kind of talk about that. Were you always very faith driven, or have you grew into that as you got older?
So I grew up in the faith world. I struggled with that growing up. I was kind of in it all 100%, and then I kind of got out of it after some events in my life. And when I first got my coach, he was really heavily on that, and I kind of like, look, bro, I'm not into that. Like just coach
Yeah.
me. I don't need that. But about 6 months in, he kept like his consistency was like, bro, you got to do it, man. Like it's gonna help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I put my hands up. Okay, I'm gonna go back into God's word. Downloaded the app, and it was full circle because of what I was going through. I didn't have like okay, I'm gonna read Genesis, like start from the beginning, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I just flipped that thing open and like went on a whim,
Yeah.
And what I was going through that day, or like what was happening in my life, was like, it was like right there, and I was like, ever since then, I have really been into it because everything I was going through was right there in front of me and like telling me how to get through it. It was just confidence, or kind of explaining how to overcome what I was going through.
Yeah.
And so that led me into what we call our championship day.
Mhm.
What leads into what are things that make you tick without a paycheck? What makes you better without making a paycheck?
Mm.
Daily devotion, eating healthy food, going to the gym, get my cardio in. It could be 4 things. It could be 1 thing. But we
Yeah.
have that like a regiment, and then we have it for us, our business, and for someone else. So
Okay.
hey, I'm gonna text this person I'm gonna text a random person, give them a motivation.
Yeah.
Or on business side, I'm gonna upload 3 pieces of content a day. Like so having a regiment, but we call it a championship day, and that's just really setting standards and setting the tone for me to get my mindset right to be
Yeah.
the best version of myself through that day.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think as I get older too, I've touched on this on a couple podcasts too. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm leaning into it. Just younger, I mean, I was raised in the church, but it was Greek Orthodox, and I have no idea what they were talking about because they were speaking in Greek, and I don't speak Greek. So that's my defense in that sense. But my mom used to take me every Sunday, and I hated it because I was like, why am I coming? But like as I've been getting older, and again through certain events in my life, I feel like something's tugging on me, and I at first, you kind of like you don't really know what to look for. You're kind of like, oh, that's weird,
Yeah.
And here recently, it's just been like really like almost staying like you. I haven't really been like opening up like a Bible, but when you did, it was like this is speaking to me right now.
Yeah.
And now like things are like in my everyday life, even on social media, dude. Like things are like pulling me in. I'm like, and I'll dig in, doing some research. So I'm not. I can't say I'm fully in because I don't know everything, but it's definitely been something I've been doing more research on. And I've always believed. Don't get me wrong. I've always believed in God and Jesus, but I don't think I've ever been able to really build that one-on-one relationship with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I
'Cause think
challenge
that's-
you, man. I challenge you in that, and,
Yeah.
and to dive in deeper in that, and really take the bull by the horns, you
Yeah.
know. And I struggle with it too. Um, not all day is a championship day. Like sometimes I don't feel like reading.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I make sure I get it in. You know, like
Yeah.
no matter what. And some days I will not want to do it, but as soon as I do it,
Yeah.
it's like, man, I'm really happy I did that. That
Yeah.
really helped me, or full circle.
Yeah.
Know? And but I challenge you to dive deeper in that, and in the audience, like if you're in a spot where you're lost, or you're kind of like don't know where to go, like I challenge you guys to just download the Bible app, and dive deep, and they have plans in there, like even like when I was going through, like they have one like praying for your wife, like different passages and like different verses that kind of connects with that and kind of gives you devotions. What I like to do is like when I'm reading in the mornings, I like to go through it and then take my takeaways through that and post it online, because again, we never know who's watching or seeing your feed. You never know who you're going to hit, and it might remind them, hey, I may need to get in the Bible today, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I challenge you in that, man, to kind of dive deep in that. Obviously, if you got something pulling on your heart, that's real.
Yeah.
And my favorite term is like God's not random. So us having this podcast today may be the initiative for you to do that, and also too, like going back to like events in your life, like you've had some events in this past year come up, and maybe that's
I appreciate that. Yeah, we had, 2 weeks ago, it's funny, 2 weeks ago I think it was, we were doing a session, and you said it, because you have kind of like your daily devotions in the morning and your routine, and you were like, the last day or two I haven't been doing it, and I can tell, like my days don't feel like they're flowing like they used to. And it's funny because we're talking about that now, but I think there's like a handful of things that help my day flow, and part of that obviously is like me eating healthy, taking care of my body, exercise, my morning routine, my rituals, but doing a little more of digging, leaning into that. I think again, man, it's just been something. This past year has been. Carly Jones from Clean Eats is funny. We had the podcast last week, and she's got her mom who's going through cancer. My father had the cancer passing. I have these other things going in my life as well, and she called it a country song. She's like, you're just going through one of those country songs right now, because it's like they're talking about like the dog dying, it's raining, and but it's the song will be over, so it's just pushing through, and sometimes that has to happen,
I call it seasons. Like you're in a different season in life, and that season may be 2 weeks, maybe 3 months. And I've learned like you evolve through every season.
For sure.
So that's why I added that to one of my core values, just because you may be in a rut now, but don't give up now. You've already come this far. Let's get past this season, and your season, like I said, maybe 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 years. Whatever it may be, but we need to get you out of that season onto the next. And realize that it's just a season, and like you said, a country song, it'll end. And you'll be on the next one.
I made a post telling people, because I was just going through one of my days, you know what I mean? And I was just like, listen, if you guys are going through something hard, difficult, you can't see the end of the light at the tunnel, and you just feel lost, the most common thing people will tell you is, find something positive to focus on. Focus on, something good that is going on in your life. It's easier said than done. And sometimes, when you're in that little pocket where things are really dark and dim, I just tell people, like, don't look for anything. Just keep going. Just keep going. And that even transitions into anybody that's, successful in whatever field they are. I notice that there's some assertiveness to them, to where they will put themselves in situations not knowing 100% that things are going to work, but know they're going to figure it out. Like, I feel like that's where people's confidence really drives from, is I don't know it all, but I'm going to find a way to figure this thing out. And so that if you can start to be a little more assertive, knowing that that's what's coming, it might work, it might not, but you just keep going. And that's where a lot of you guys will start to feel more confident in your ability to take on bigger tasks. If it didn't work the first time, don't stop. There's another path.
For
You know?
sure. And like reverting back to when I like in the beginning, like it's crazy what a little winning would do.
Oh yeah.
You're in another Ed, I love Ed Milet.
Yeah.
You're one phone call, one decision away from changing your family tree.
Mm.
Change your trajectory in your business. Like
Yeah.
let that sink in, man.
Yeah.
You know, like
It is. It's
you know,
true.
you're one decision, one phone call, one meeting
Mm-hmm.
for changing your life. You know, like you said, if it didn't work now,
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow it will. You know, and that's what has grounded me because of I may have like this week. It's rained all week, bro. I ain't bringing no money in, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going on vacation next week, so I've got 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, but when but now we got some work on the books. When I come, you know, like back, everything's kind of shifted. So like your mindset. I'm talking about mindset here. Like your mindset could like, oh crap, you know, this has been a week, you know, sucky week, and I made a post about who thinks I can sell $50,000 worth of work this week. And it gets me going when I talk about that because it's fun. I used to be the guy like twiddling my thumbs, like, man, like why are they not calling me? Like I'm screwed, you know. And we're talking about seasons. I was in a season of that. And then that mentorship came in, and it's like content, cold calling, networking, and it's just changed the whole mindset. And I was literally one phone call, one decision, one meeting, one podcast away from changing the whole scenario.
Yeah.
You know, one mindset. You know, it's a mindset, bro. Like I love Ed Milet, man, and you guys need to listen to that. And he has some great motivation on there, and his story is amazing too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Ed Milet's great. I mean, I know you got to meet him in person. I met him in person once. He is. When everybody ever asks like, what's a good podcast to like start with, I always tell them mine. But no,
I like that.
but
Hint, you know?
yeah, hint, download this.
Yeah,
No, but his is the first one because he is kind of broad, but also very on all personal development, right? But he has really good guests, and I tell people like you get in there. This is how I started too. Like you find that one person you're really invested into, and they'll have guests on that you listen to, and you're like, man, that dude was, or girl was really smart, inspiring. And then you get down this rabbit hole. You start listening to that person. And then you just have like this cycle. I have probably like 10 different people that I listen to on a regular where it just keeps me focused, motivated, whether it's, you know, relationships or personal development or business. Like I have my pockets of people that I listen more to. But I heard this interesting hack. I was listening to this guy, Brendan Burchard, who has he has a book out called High Performance Habits. It's actually a really, really good book, but he is now, I just listened to a podcast where he was talking about he is coaching 4 or 5 billionaires that pay him $1 million a year to coach. You want to talk about, that's serious, you know?
Yeah.
But he was, I mean, a lot of the stuff he says, obviously he's a big time motivational speaker, super successful, but he was telling me, I was listening to it. Yeah, he was telling me.
Yes, right.
Because I was in the room. No, but he was saying, you know, we can, as humans, get really caught up in our emotions. And sometimes we can trick our brain by creating those small wins, kind of like you were talking about, whether it's like just get to the gym, just drinking a glass of water, you know, just little things that start to show us we can actually commit to what we're saying. So if you feel like that, you know, you're lost, you can't figure things out, you're a failure, start really small. Those little things will compound over time.
They will add up.
Yeah, so your mind can sometimes, you can be your own worst enemy, you know?
Bro, I was, and I know you were too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we care about how we look and how we show up, right? And when we're not, we may have a little bit of insecurity, like, fuck, you know, like
we always do.
my arm's looking small, like what the hell, you know?
let me get a pump.
But yeah, I love that, and like, and it reverts back to seasons, you know, and like getting out of that season, and like it always makes you better.
Yeah.
And stacking those little wins, like even like you said, showing up to the gym. Like, obviously, I didn't want to get out of bed at 5 a.m. to come to the gym, but I'm here. Let's fucking get it.
Hell yeah, like, that's what's up.
And that's what gets me going is motivation, speaking. Like I love going out to networking events too, but also getting to meet the speakers, and you never know what their topic is, or like what they're gonna say, and what's gonna hit you.
Yeah.
And like what you take from that and what you go home with. Like we just had an event last week with win rate, and just coming like I'm local, but just taking away those 2 days is really impactful. And we do that 4 times a year, so we have 4 events, and just those 2 days make a big impact
Yeah.
on how you direct your trajectory for the next quarter.
Heck yeah.
And just stacking wins, man.
Heck
Stack wins, and learn from them. And then don't be, and also, like, let me say this: don't be so hard on yourself if you don't get something in.
Yeah.
If you're really busy, like maybe that's a sign. Catch it. I need to work on my time block. Like, there is no question. Like, I mean, when I signed up for one-on-one coaching with you, I was with Will, and our workouts are at like 6 a.m. So
Yeah.
And then we did that for a year, and he left for his wife Marines or whatever, and then we just recently signed back up, and then I forgot what question you asked me, and it's like, there's no question. I'm gonna I think you're asking me like, is this gonna work for you? Like, are you gonna come here 3 times a week or twice a week? I'm like, bro, it's not an option.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here. Like, it's so setting the standard and the tone for yourself.
Yeah.
Then hiring a coach, I'm one of your mentees. Like, I need that accountability as well, and having someone push you, but also see it through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes
it's not debatable. You know what I mean?
Everybody needs that little extra support to bring you back on the line, because right now Jeremy is hyper focused. Like, we got everything dialed in, everything from his hormones to his workouts to your nutrition. Like, we're really spending a lot of time just being super focused on that to get the results that we're looking for in the next 12 weeks or so. But when and this is funny, because now that you're talking about that, when that Hurricane Helene came through, that was a huge tragedy, but also developed a lot of business for you, because trees are knocked down, people need to clean up. And during that time, I remember Jeremy was he was fading. I could see it, because he was just over consumed with work, just working constantly, jobs nonstop, and then your sleep was suffering. And then we got on a call, and you're like, I don't know, dude. Like, I've never been this busy in my life, and I'm going to bed super late and waking up super early. And I was like, dude, we gotta set some boundaries again, because I get it it's a season.
Yeah.
It was a season that happened. So we had to go back to, okay, you need to go to bed at this time. And I gave him the hack with the alarm clock, put the alarm clock across.
Can't reach it, yeah.
Yeah, you cannot reach. If your alarm, your phone is in arm distance from you, it's too close. You need to get back on your feet to go turn it off, because I always tell people, when you get up and you walk over to turn that alarm clock off, you have a conscious decision to either go back to bed and let all your dreams back in your dreams, or go back to sleep, right? Or you can just put your big boy pants on, put your boots on, and get after it and make it a reality.
For sure.
And I remember doing that, talking to you, and that was all I had to say. It was pretty much it just someone needed to say it.
Yeah, and again, I was in a season, man, and sometimes your coach is just there at the right moment, I was overconsumed with work, and again, that's where coaching and you're not seeing it, you see it, but you're not doing anything about it, because it's you're your biggest critic.
Yeah.
And once I had the confidence, and we have check-ins, and you're like, dang, dude, you good? You ain't showing up like you're supposed to, and I'm big on that, And so you having the vulnerability to have that phone call, and he's right, man. I'm failing. I'm in a season, man.
Yeah.
I need to handle, and again, that was a tragedy, and I hate all that happened, and all the people, that houses went away, and
but
North
people
Carolina
needed your help.
Yeah,
people
North
need your
Carolina's
help.
still struggling pretty bad, and but we helped everybody that we could. I was just in I look at it now no excuse. I should have made time.
Yeah.
For sure. So I've learned to delegate. And try to just come to realization I can't do everything.
Yeah. Well, I know it's you're gonna continue to evolve.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna be client, friend, whatever. We're still gonna be connected. So I enjoy seeing you win and learn.
Yeah.
Learning the new strategies, SOPs, we're talking about that now, and just things that you start to put in place that help you climb the ladder more and more. So, you know, I know we're about to go crush this leg workout here in a minute.
Yeah.
But for the listeners, you know, from the time that you started your business to, you know, this moment right here, what are some non-negotiables that you have put in place that you live by right now?
Showing up for your family, faith, got to read the Bible.
Yeah.
Got to get in it, man. Got to stay in your mindset, having a good mindset, and being intentional. And you also have to be vulnerable. That's my top 5 things.
I love it, man.
Love it, man.
I love it.
And stay in those. Have championship day. Like, have your day figured out, and what makes you tick without getting a paycheck. Because that'll help you find your why.
For sure.
You know.
I love that.
And so develop that, and then once you find your why, your vision and everything that you do, it's gonna push you to like want to be better.
Yeah.
So that's me, man. I getting real honest and vulnerable with yourself. Get a coach, talk to us.
Yeah.
Like, me and you have so many conversations. Like when I bring my coaching calls to our workouts sometimes. You know? It's like, bro, like I'm learning a lot, and I like that because I can have someone to talk to, obviously, if I'm going through something, and then it may be something you're going through, and like we kind of got to like talk about it together and collaborate with people that want to see you win. You know, like don't surround yourself with people that's like bums. You know, I hate to say that, but just like got nothing going for them because they don't want to get up and do like work for it. You know, like, surround yourself with people that want to see you win. That could be family, that could be your friends. But don't hang around people that's just gonna sit there and like be negative all the time. Like be around people that want to be positive, man.
Little energy vampires, dude.
Yeah,
They just suck the life out of you.
It's a serious thing.
That is.
I hanged around people like just didn't want to go to the next level, you know. And I'm like, I had to weave them out because it's just to the point where like I can't stay in this mindset and be where it take me where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've experienced that, and like your friends are going to disappear because they're not on your level.
They're not aligned with your vision.
Yeah.
You know, I think I heard there's 3 pockets of friends, right? There's the one friends that were from your past.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where they should remain because you're starting to evolve. You guys aren't aligned, and then you have friends that you guys may, you know, communicate here and there just enough to keep a friendship going, and then you have that pocket that's like, let's help each other grow. Let's talk about growth. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about family, you know? So just think about, you know, the people you're surrounding in. Where are you putting your people? Like what pocket are you putting them in, and where are you spending more time? Because if you're still hanging out, if you're trying to do something like me and Jeremy are doing, and you're hanging out with people that are still drinking every single weekend and just, you know, lottie-dotting through the week, drifting, then,
you're going to pick up on that.
Yeah, and why do you think you're going to progress? Because not only can you not carry them up because they're not willing, they're going to start holding you back. They're going to start dragging you down to their level. So that whole thing of you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. I'm sorry to go like off script there, but that was just like something hit my heart. Like surround yourself with people that want to see you win, and that's what I would leave to the listeners. And be vulnerable and learn from your mistakes. Your seasons is just seasons, you know?
Facts.
You're going to get out of it.
Facts. So thank you, Jeremy. Let the people know where where the business at, where they can find you, contact you.
Yeah, so holbrooksoutdoorsolutions.com, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We try to upload content daily, so you'll probably see me through TikTok. I mean, you know, here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do some content at the gym. So anytime you guys need anything, DM me, you know, and we'll maybe circle back.
Yeah, for sure. I'll leave all the links in the description so you can contact Jeremy if you guys need anything. He's the man right now.
Yeah.
Climbing the ranks.
Climbing the ranks, baby. Let's go.
All right. So hope you guys have a good rest of the day. Get some value. We're going to go crush this workout.
Let's go.
See y'all.